Welcome to the continuation of the discussion on capital budgeting. So we ended on the net present value. So dito na tayo ngayon sa methods in capital budgeting that considers the time value of money. So para mas madali mong maintindihan, yung nagko-consider ng time value of money is yung gumagamit ng mga present value factors in the computation of the formulas included. So one is the net present value. The net present value is it assumes that the discount rate is the reinvestment rate. So ano ang tinitingnan on the net present value? Ang tinitingnan dito ay yung inflow at saka outflow ay pinagko-compare. Yung pumasok na pera at yung lumabas na pera, i-compare natin, pero dahil magkakaibang time period yan, kailangan hilahin natin sila at time zero. Kaya ginagamitan siya ng present value of inflows minus the present value of outflows. So kung titingnan mo, kapag positive yan, ibig sabihin mas mataas yung inflow kaysa sa outflow, accept mo yung project or yan ay favorable. Kapag negative yan, ibig sabihin mas mataas yung present value ng outflow ng mga palabas na pera, ibig sabihin i-decline mo yung project or yan ay magiging unfavorable. Okay? Next is the internal rate of return. Kung kanina meron tayong accounting rate of return, the accounting rate of return is called as the unadjusted rate of return kasi hindi niya nga kino-consider yung time value of money. Yung internal rate of return is a time adjusted rate of return o kino-consider niya na yung time value of money. This is the rate of return which equates the PV of inflows and the PV of outflow. Okay? So, tinitingnan nito yung point at which yung inflow natin ay equal sa ating PV ng outflow. It is the rate of return where the NPV is 0. Okay? Kasi nga, ang formula ng NPV is the difference between the two PV of inflow and outflow. When the cash flows are uniform, ibig sabihin, kapag uniform, equal po. Every year, merong papasok na 100,000 or 50,000, yun. Pag ganong mga scenario, the IRR can be computed as 1. Ano ang step? How do we compute the IRR? Kailangan mo munang makompute yung present value factor or mas madaling sabihin, yung payback period. Kailangan makompute mo muna yung payback period bago ka mag-proceed. So, if uniform daw ang inflows natin, mas madali. Kasi, yung net cost of investment divided by the net cash inflows, yung ma-generate mo dyan na PV factor or the payback period. Kasi same formula kung babalikan mo, the payback period is the investment divided by the inflows. So, kapag mag-generate ka ng IRR, gagamitin mo yung concept muna ng payback period, and then kapag nakuha mo yung item dito, halimbawa ang nakuha mong PV factor ay 2.75, hanapin mo lang po dun sa present value table. So bibigyan ko kayo ng present value table as reference in our discussion, pero more or less yung present value table ay na-encounter mo na yan on the previous accounting subjects mo, yung pag-generate ng paano tingnan yung present value on the table at paano rin mag-generate. More or less dapat yan ay na-encounter mo na by at this point. However, paano kapag yung cash flows are not uniform? Okay. So, ang sabi dito, okay, balik lang muna tayo dito. Sabi, the PV annuity table, find on line N, yung economic life, the PVF obtained. The corresponding rate is the IRR. So, kung halimbawa, 2.5 yan, tapos tingnan mo yung table, ang number of years ang problem ay 3 years. So, punta ka dun sa line ng 3 years, hanapin mo yung na-compute mong PV factor. Kapag yan ay sakto, nandoon mismo, kung ano yung rate na nandoon, yun na yung internal rate of return. Paano ka, sir, kapag nag-fall yung PV factor ko sa dalawang rates, halimbawa between 20 and 21%, kailangan mong mag-interpolate yung interpolation method. Later on, we will discuss that. Kailangan mo ng interpolation method dyan, kung ganun ang senaryo. Pero kung sakto, yun na mismo ang IRR. paano kapag pag uniform yan paano kapag hindi uniform mismo yung cash flows? Halimbawa, ngayon 100,000, next year 50,000 ng inflows, then susunod 30,000, ganon. Hindi uniform or uneven yung kanyang cash flow, kailangan mo pong gumamit diretso ng interpolation method. So kapag uniform, pwedeng sakto yung makukuha mong IRR pag tiningnan mo sa table, kung hindi, interpolation. Kapag hindi siya uniform, automatic interpolation method ka kaagad. Okay? Later, we will have a sample problem related to that. Profitability Index. Yung Profitability Index, kino-compare niya lang po yung inflow at saka outflow. So, ang mas madaling tandaan in the formula here is the PV of inflow divided by the PV of outflows. Okay? In some instances, we use PV of inflow and the cost of investment if that is the only cash outflow. Okay? Okay, balik tayo sa internal rate of return. What is the deciding factor here? Under internal, kung sa net present value, kapag positive or negative, may accept or decline na sinasabi. Kapag internal rate of return, if the internal rate of return is greater than the cost of the capital, ibig sabihin, you have it is favorable or pwede mong i-accept yung project. Kung below naman siya sa cost of capital, ay wag mo nang i-accept. Okay? Next, sa profitability index, mas mataas, the higher the better. Kapag mataas ang profitability index, okay yan. So normally, ang questions dyan ay pinagko-compare yung dalawang project. So sinong pipiliin mo based on profitability index? Yung mas mataas. Kasi nga, ang formula ng profitability index is the inflow PV of inflow divided by the total PV of outflow. Ibig sabihin, mataas yung inflow kapag mataas ang profitability index. Okay? Let us proceed with the sample problems. So payback, this is a problem for the methods that do not use the time value of money, payback and accounting rate of return. So this company considers the replacement of some old equipment. The cost of the new equipment is 90,000. With a useful life, 8 years, salvage value 10,000. The annual pre-tax o yung before deduction of tax cash savings from the use of the new equipment is 40,000. The old equipment has zero market value and is fully depreciated. The company uses a cost of capital 25%. So yan yung basis natin on our internal rate of return. Kung yung cost of capital na yan. And also the basis on your accounting rate of return. Okay? The basis assuming that the income tax rate is 40%, compute for the payback period. So how do we compute for the payback period? What is the formula? Balikan natin yung formula ng payback period. The formula in the payback period is the cost of investment divided by the annual cash inflow. Cost of investment. How much is the cost of investment? 90,000. Divided by the inflow, cash inflow. May naka-indicate ba dyan? Meron. Yung pre-tax cash savings na 40,000. However, it is pre-tax at binigay na income tax rate. Ibig sabihin, kailangan mo po, dahil magbabayad ka pa ng tax, magbabayad ka pa ng cash out of that savings, so dapat computein natin yung tax na babayaran mo. So how do we compute for the tax? Ano ba ang basis ng tax? Yung taxable income mo para dyan. Okay? Normally, yung 40,000, yan na dapat yung income mo. Pero dahil anong expense ang deductible for that? Yung depreciation. So, 90,000, dahil ito ay straight line method lang dahil walang binanggit, so, gamitin natin yung simple depreciation. 90,000 minus the salvage value, 20,000, is 80,000 divided by 8. So, 10,000 ang iyong depreciation. So, 40,000 minus 10,000 is 30,000. So, 30,000 is your taxable income. Ito na yung isa-subject mo sa tax. 30,000 times 40%, yun yung tax mo. So, para mas madali, 30,000 times 60% ka na kaagad. Para yaan na yung net income mo after tax. 30,000 times 60%, that is 18,000. So, 18,000, yaan yung iyong net income after tax. Remember, ang kailangan natin sa payback period is the annual cash inflow. So, annual cash inflow. Ibig sabihin, kailangan yung mga cash items ang tingnan natin. Since depreciation is a non-cash item, dapat yan ay i-add back mo plus 10,000. Therefore, uh, ang iyong annual cash inflow ay 28,000. So 90,000 minus divided by 28,000 is 3.21 years. Yan po ang iyong payback period. Question: Sir, bakit po kailangan pa nating add back yung depreciation, binawas na nga natin siya. Remember, kaya mo lang siya binawas doon sa 40,000 kanina ay para makompute mo yung tax niya. 'Di ba? Pag nagko-compute tayo ng net income, kino-consider natin yung depreciation as an expense. Pero in analyzing capital budgeting techniques, in the payback period, ina-add back natin siya. So, kasi kapag diniretso mo yan 40,000 times 60%, ang lalabas niyan ay 24,000. It will not reflect the actual cash inflow for the company. Okay? So, kapag may data related to depreciation at merong tax rate, kailangan gamitin mo yon in computing for your annual cash inflow and then tsaka mo i-add back yung depreciation kasi yon ay non-cash item. Okay. Next, let's proceed with the accounting rate of return on original investment and average investment. Sir, ano ibig sabihin nito? Ang ibig sabihin lang niyang original and average is yung basis mo po ng iyong denominator. Remember, ano na ang formula mo ng accounting rate of return? The annual net income divided by the investment. Annual net income divided by the investment. So ito, yung original average investment, yun yung denominator mo. So ang net income mo diyan, annual net income, yung na-compute natin kanina sa payback period, yung 18,000. 'Di ba? Yun yung annual net income mo. Huwag kang malito dun sa concept ng annual net income at saka annual cash inflow. Kasi kapag annual net income ang tinutukoy dito is yung nakabawas yung depreciation, yung nasa financial statement. Pero kapag payback period ang pinag-uusapan, ina-add back natin yung depreciation. Okay? Para makompute yung annual cash inflow. Please take note of that. Annual cash inflow is different from the annual net income. Okay. How do we compute now the ARR on original investment? So 18,000 divided by yung original investment natin ay 90,000. Ito yun. So, yan ay 20%. Okay. Next, ARR on average investment. So, same lang, 18 divided by average investment. Paano ma-determine yung average investment? Ito yung investment at the beginning at yung balance niya at ending. Paano po ma-determine yun? Given na po, yung average investment is just the original investment plus the salvage value divided by 2. So, 90,000 plus 10,000 is 100,000 divided by 2, dahil average nga siya, is 50,000. So, therefore, 18,000 yung average, yung net income natin na compute before, divided by 50,000 is 36%. Okay. How do we know that it is favorable or unfavorable for the company? We will use the cost of capital. Diba? Sabi ko kanina, for ARR and internal rate of return, we will look at a comparison between the return and the cost of capital. Yung cost of capital kasi, ito yung gagastusin pag nilabas. Kumbaga, ito yung in percentage terms, ito yung minimum na dapat nating kitain. So, dapat mas malaki dyan. Kasi yan yung cost eh. Kumbaga, parang ito yung expense on the investment. This is the expense on the investment. So, dapat mas mataas lagi dyan yung return. Di ba? The return should always be greater than the cost. So, or the benefit should be greater than the cost. Di ba? So, ibig sabihin, dapat lagi kang greater than the cost of capital for ARR para maturing mo yan na favorable. Okay, so yung 20%, this is unfavorable dahil yan ay below 25%. Lugi ka pa dyan. Yung 36%, this is favorable because this is higher than the cost of capital na 25%. Okay, let's proceed with the problems for NPV, Profitability Index, and internal rate of return. So, Candy Corporation gathered the following data on two capital investment opportunities. So, meron tayo dyang Project 1 and then Project 2. So, merong cost of investment, cost of capital, expected useful life, and then net cash inflows. Si Project 1, inflows niya for the 3 years, 100,000, 100,000, 100,000. Pero si Project 2, ang sabi, this amount is to decline by 20,000 annually thereafter. Ibig sabihin, at the end of year 1, 100,000 ang iyong inflow. At the end of year 2, 80,000. At the end of year 3, 60,000. Okay? The requirement is to round off factors into 3 decimal places in all cases. Fill in the blanks. So, ito na po yung sagot, yung naka-red. But we will answer this. Project 1, 2, yan. Doon muna tayo sa net present value. The net present value is your PV of inflow minus the PV of outflow. PV ng inflow. How do we compute for the PV of your inflow? Sa project number 1 tayo. Yung inflow po natin ay 100,000. So, paano tayo mag-generate ng present value? 100,000 yan for 3 years. So, kailangan mo pong makuha yung present value factor para makompute mo yan. So, alam mo ba kung paano mag-compute ng present value factor? Using only your calculator and looking at the data? Dapat alam mo. Kasi sa Sipali, hindi ka nabibigyan ng present value table. Although, sometimes, and in most cases, nakalagay na sa problem yung PV factor na gagamitin. Pero, bibigyan ka ng mga 4 or 5 PV factor, then tsaka mo kukunin doon kung ano yung applicable. So, dapat alam mo rin kung paano mag-compute. So, for this sample, the formula we will be using is, I know some of you will know this dahil naturo na ito sa iyong math of investment or in other, yung mga business math, ganon. So, how do we compute for this? 1 plus the cost of capital o yung discount rate or yung rate na naka-indicate dyan. Then, hilahin mo lang siya sa iyong time value 0. So, how do we compute for this? 1.1 raised to negative 3. 1.1 raised to negative 3 ay 0.7513148, di ba? 1 minus mo yung answer mo, yung 0.7513148. Okay? Nasundan? Then, i-divide mo sa yung rate, yung cost of capital na 0.10. Anong nakuha mo? Dapat 2.487. So, 2.487 ang iyong present value factor. So, present value factor mo 2.487, multiply mo po yun sa 100,000. That is your PV ng inflow. So, ang PV ng inflow mo ay 248,700 for project 1. Ano naman ang PV ng outflow mo for project 1? E di yung 195,200 kasi at time 0 na ito. Ito na mismo yung present value niya kasi yan na yung babayaran mo mismo at this present time, at time 0. So, 248,700 minus 195,200 is 53,500. The answer for item A. Ito yon. Okay, let's proceed now with project 2, yung NPV niya. Ang problema dito sa project 2, yung inflow niya ay uneven or nagbabago every year. So, paano tayo magko-compute ng present value factor dyan? Kailangan mo pong isa-isahin. 100,000, kasi kanina, isahang compute, nakuha ka agad yung 248,700. But for project number 2, kailangan mo isa-isahin yung year 1, inflow, year 2, at saka year 3, hilahin mo ngayon sa time 0. Okay? Yung 100,000, makukuha yan at the end of year 1. So, paano natin kukumputin ang kanyang present value factor? E di, 100,000 times 1.1 raised to negative 1. Bakit negative 1? Kasi 1 year. Hihilahin mo lang siya ng isang taon. So, ang sagot dyan, 90,900. Okay? Next. At dun sa year 2, mayroon ka at the end of year 2, may marireceive kang 80,000, di ba? Times 1.1 raised to negative 2. Ang sagot mo dyan dapat ay 66,080. Okay? Next, at year 3, may marireceive kang 60,000. Multiply mo lang yan sa 1.1 raised to negative 3. Kasi sa year 3 mo yan makukuha. At the end of year 3, hilahin mo yan sa time 0 ngayon. So, ang sagot dyan, 45,060. Okay? So, kung mapapansin mo, kapag diniretso mo sa calculator, merong differences kasi dapat yung PV factor mo ay i-round mo na sa 3 decimal places. Kasi yun yung sabi dito. Okay? So, kailangan 1.1 raised to negative 1, 0.909 ang gamitin mo, hindi yung buo. Kasi ang sabi niya dito, in all cases, gamitin daw 3 decimal places. Okay? So, ganun siya. So, magkano po? I-total mo lahat yung na-compute mo doon. 90,900 plus 66,080 plus 45,060. Your present value of your inflow is 202,040 minus your PV ng outflow, 150,000. Kasi at time 0, yan na yun mismo. 52,040 is your answer for item B. Okay? Next, profitability index, i-divide mo lang po yung na-compute natin. 248,700 divided by 195,200 is 1.27. Yung ginamit mo pong item dito sa net present value, i-divide mo lang. Okay? And for D, 1.35. 202,040 divided by 150,000 is 1.35. Okay. Next, for item E, the internal rate of return. How do we compute for the internal rate of return? Di ba ang sabi kanina, sabi sa internal rate of return, kapag yung cash flows are uniform, kuhanin mo yung kanyang PV factor or yung kanyang payback period, tapos hanapin mo siya doon sa annuity table. Kung ano yung tumapat, siya yun na mismo internal rate of return. Pero kapag hindi siya uniform, kailangan mo pong mag-interpolate. So, on project 1, dahil ito ay uniform, hanapin mo na lang. So, ano ba ang present value factor natin dyan? 1.9. What is the present value factor? Ano ba ang payback period natin dyan? 195,200 divided by 100,000. Compute ka ng payback dyan sa project 1. 195, di ba? Yan, ganyan ang pag-compute ng payback. 195,200 divided by 100,000. 1.952 ang lalabas na PV factor. Hindi pa po yun yung sagot kasi yun yung titingnan mo sa table kung saan siya nakatapat na percentage. So, ang gagamitin mo, 1.952, punta ka sa table, sa tapat ng 3 years, hanapin mo yung 1.952 at kapag saan siya tumapat na percentage, yun na yung kanyang internal rate of return. So, in this case, meron kang dapat makita dyan, yung 25%, sakto siya doon. So, ang project 1's internal rate of return is 25%. Favorable ba yan? Yes, because it is greater than the cost of capital na 10%. Okay? Next, this is the problem now. Project 2 kasi ay hindi siya even or hindi uniform ang kanyang cash flows. Therefore, kailangan mo po diyang mag-interpolate. So, how do we interpolate now? Step 1. Okay, please take note and please take note of this kasi mahalaga ito. Kapag hindi uniform yung cash flows, kailangan mo pa rin kumpute ng payback period o yung PV factor related to that. So, kanina, 195,200 divided by 100,000 ka lang, di ba? Walang problema. Kasi pare-parehas na ang inflow niyan per year ay 100,000. Pero paano sir, kapag ganito? Eh, di ba 100,000 at the end of year 1, 80,000 at the end of year 2, 60,000 at the end of year 3? Paano pong gagawin ko? Ang gagawin mo po dyan ay kuhanin mo yung average annual cash inflow. Paano yun? 100,000 plus 80,000 plus 60,000, that is 240,000 divided by 3. Kasi tatlong taon. So, magkano lalabas dyan? 240 divided by 3 is 80,000. So, therefore, 150,000 cost of investment divided by 80,000, yung average annual cash inflows niya, that is 1.875. So, yung 1.875, yun po ang hahanapin mo doon sa PV annuity table. So, normally, usually, and in almost all case in all cases, hindi yan tatapat dun sa tamang percentage, hindi katulad dito sa project 1. So, anong gagawin mo kapag hindi siya tumapat? So, in this case, kung titingnan mo yung PV table na isend ko din sa iyo kasama ng module na ito, ay makikita mo na nagfo-fall below siya. Okay, eto siya. 1.875, di ba? Ito yung PV factor mo na na-compute na 150 divided by 80,000, 1.875 yon. Nakita mo na yung 1.875 ay wala siyang eksaktong ganong percentage dyan sa PV table. Siya ay nasa pagitan ng 30% at 25%. So kung titingnan mo, habang tumataas yung interest rate, ay bumababa yung PV factor. Okay, please take note of that. Habang tumataas yung rate, bumababa yung PV factor dyan. So, anong gagawin mo? You just have to interpolate. Paano mag-interpolate ganito? Yung 25%, i-plot mo yung PV factor niya. Yung 30%, 1.816 ang kanyang PV factor. So, i-plot mo po ito. Ang hinahanap mo is yung X. Yung percentage sa pagitan ng 25 at 30 na magiging equal yung 1.875. Okay, how do we interpolate this? Kuhanin mo po yung difference nung 1.952, yung mataas na PV factor, 0.077 po yon. Then, yung 1.952 compared doon sa 1.816, yung pinakamababang PV factor. So, 0.077 at saka 0.136 yan. Ang difference nitong dalawa ay 5%, di ba? Okay. So, ano ang logic dito? Bago ko sa iyo ipakita yung although nakikita mo na yung solution. But the logic here is, kailangan mong makuha yung proportion nitong difference ng difference nitong x at 25 at yung buong percentage niya. Yung buong kung saan siya nakapaloob. Kumbaga, kinukuha mo yung proportion noong 1.875 doon sa total ng range. Kaya nga, kung titingnan mo, dahil 1.875 ito, di ba ang sabi natin, habang tumataas yung rate, ay bumababa yung PV factor. Dahil mas mababa yung PV factor na 1.875 kesa sa 1.952, it is imperative or it is mandatory that your X is greater than 25%. Kaya nga, ang formula ay 25% plus. So, hindi na siya pwedeng bumaba sa 25% kasi nga, mas mababa. Mayroong inverse relationship yung interest rate at yung PV factor. Okay? So now, how do we get the proportion, yung gutal? Paano natin makukuha yung gutal? Para makuha mo yung gutal, ay kailangan mo lang pong i-ratio in proportion yung differences noong range. So, 0.077 divided by 0.136 para makuha mo yung ratio in proportion, i-multiply mo dun sa 5% nila, na difference nila. Para makuha mo yung portion lang na para kay X. Okay? Then, pag na-compute mo yon, i-add mo po dun sa 25%. Your answer should be 27.83%. This is your internal rate of return for project 2. 27.83. This is also favorable dahil higher ito dun sa 10% na cost of capital. Okay. Ito rin po ang ganitong step din ang gagawin mo kung sakaling uniform cash flow ka, pero nung tiningnan mo sa PV table ay hindi siya sakto. So, pwedeng gamitin ito sa uniform yung cash flow, pero nung tiningnan sa table ay hindi siya sakto. Nandun siya sa pagitan ng dalawang percentages. Ganyan po yung step na gagawin. Maraming nalilito dito. Kasi minsan, ang pinagbabawas nila is itong 1.875 at saka 1.816. So, please be mindful na ang titingnan mo po dyan is yung mataas na PV factor at saka yung hinahanap na PV factor, tapos yung pinakamataas na PV factor at yung pinakamababang PV factor. Okay. I hope the discussion on capital budgeting give you an insight related to the topic kasi more or less ay maraming mga ganito during the review and the sipale. So, Sana ay malaki ang naitulong nito sa iyo dahil it will guide you as you go along with the capital budgeting techniques, kasi itong capital budgeting techniques hindi ito nawawala in most of the higher cases in managerial uh, management advisory services. Okay, thank you, and this will be the end of the discussion on capital budgeting. Thank you.